Right guys, back again. Here we go with actually a tutorial video. Been a long while since we've done one of them. And there'll be another one straight behind it as well, but I will put that up the following day. Right, so pellet waggler fishing. One of my favourite styles of fishing, I'll be honest. Hang on, I've just got to let the dog out. Yeah, one of my favourite styles of fishing. As I mentioned ages ago, it's something that has evolved no end. The days of the big wagglers are gone. Still do have a place for a couple of little things though, as we'll go into in a minute. So, well, first, when would you fish pellet waggler? As I always do with these, when would you do it? As soon as the weather warms up. It's obviously not something you're going to go and fish on a lake that's 20 metres wide. Generally, not saying it won't work casting to an island or across. It does work. Phoenix Lake at Floatfish, there's a lot of them catch really well on it. It's probably 25-30 metres wide, but it's more for open water lakes, big carp. Like places like 2 islands at Floatfish, we fish it a lot. For me, that's where I go if I need to just get myself in tune with it for matches, and then it's your Barstons, your Meadowlands, your big waters. Now, like I say, as soon as they come up in the water, and so depends on the weather, but you're generally going to be looking April, definitely May, through to sort of October time. We do fish a waggler up in the water in the winter as well, but it's a completely different thing. We'll do a different video on that when it comes to it. Let's hope that with the very long winter we've had, we're going to have a very long summer, so we don't need to worry about it till about December, but I think I'm hoping there. So yeah, that is any time on open waters once the fish start coming up in the water. Big carp. I'm not saying you don't catch F1s or skimmers on it as well, because you do often catch some big skimmers on it when the carp aren't quite having it early on. Now, we'll go to tackle setup. I'll do tackle setup and then I'll talk about the floats, because it's all about the floats. So, tackle wise, for me, 11-foot Horizon Pro Waggler. They're just so good rods. All the Horizon Pro rods are so good. They're better priced than a lot of big ones. I'm not one for pushing products to you, that's not what this is about, but they are so good. Lovely fish playing action, just lovely to use. So if you're in the lookout for a rod, definitely check them out. 11-foot is my go-to. Do carry a 12-footer, but they're more powerful if I'm fishing, if I was fishing Boddingtons or somewhere, I don't go there, but for that sort of fishing, and a bit bigger wagglers, and like decoy for fishing on beastly, chucking a big waggler, not necessarily feeding, just chucking it. They're just a bit more power for them longer chucks. Reel wise, I've got to be careful what I say here. You want, the reel is so important. Spend as much money as you can. Your watch, whoever they're sponsored by, all the top anglers that do a lot of this fishing use a very expensive Daiwa reel. A Daiwa Certate is the go-to reel for most people that do this fishing all the time. Actually, a spinning reel, they retail at about £500. I'm not saying you've got to go and spend that much money, but people don't spend that without a reason. It's so powerful and it's so quick on the retrieve. It's all about retrieve. So just look for a reel with a quick retrieve. I'm obviously with Matrix, I'm not saying don't go and buy a Matrix reel. Just look at the reels, and you want something with a quick retrieve. If you've got the money, spend the money. It is definitely an advantage, because the more cash you have, the more bites you're going to get and the quicker retrieve. Line wise, thinner the line the better. You want something £4 to £6 max, £6 if you're chucking big Wagglers. It's the diameter. When I've gone to the floats, it's about the lightest float you can get away with and keeping a tight line. So the less drag you've got, it's like the people that do the massive 100 metre plus chucks. We use light line on that on a method, just because of it's less resistance from when you're casting it. You have got to check your line regularly, because it's and in a perfect situation you'd have 2 rods set up, identical rods, just because of the wear and tear that is going to go at some stage, because it's light. But that negative is far outweighed by all the positives. You're going to catch more fish in a light line. You can use a light float, and they just don't like a big float anymore. They've wised it. Like all methods, they've evolved. Like I said to you, it's evolved. Now, hook length wise, well, rig wise, just literally what have we got? Just a couple of the matrix line stops, one either side. Again, some people and the kits come with 3 on. Don't worry about it. Maybe just pinching a number 10 shot or something behind it, just to stop the one behind the float sliding. But it's all about the less drag again, not lots of stuff. And just a little snap them in between them, smallest you can get away. I know a lot of people use the size 16 Maver. These are even smaller, you won't see them, they're really lightweight ones. These are the smallest I've found. They're an 18 from Tribuco, I think I ordered on eBay. Really, really tiny. Again, it's just about minimising the drag. Then you obviously your loop. Do like quite a big loop, not like on my pole rigs, just because it's helping create a bit of drag in the water, helping your bait to sink that bit slower. That's my reasoning behind it. Then on to hook lengths. Just keep them stored on these. Very, very simple. I'm not one for fishing light. I don't think it makes any difference. Just put the pin back in this because I've left it undone. But yeah, I don't think it makes any difference. A lot of the bites come as it is for water. They're not inspecting it. So I fish 022. Again, it's as you'll find with me, the bomb fluorocarbon is massively important in my eyes. More for the bomb, but for this as well, because it's so stiff. It just keeps the line tighter to the float as the hook falls, and it helps it sink a bit slower as well. So 022, it's I use the Guru, the Pure. It's horrible stuff. I use fluorocarbon on pole rigs as well, and I don't use that because I think it's so stiff and nasty, but which is perfect for what I want to do on the running line. So yeah, and then it's down to MXC4, which I love. They're brilliant hooks, a size 12. I don't mess around with anything else. Not one that thinks all scaling down hook size or anything is going to get you more bites. It doesn't. You want a decent bit to hook in their mouth. Tie these at 30 inches, which 2.5 foot, the perfect length for your Waggler. Bruce! Sorry, dog's going mad. Bruce, in you come. In you come. Yeah. And then I have, for those days when you want to fish a bit deeper, I've got the same again on another spool. I tie these at 6 foot long. Not probably going to fish it at 6 foot, that's the deepest I would fish, and I just cut them down if need be. But to avoid waste, I know my go-to is the 2.5 foot, so I have them tied at 2.5 foot and then some longer ones for if I need them. That is pretty much it. I haven't got them tied up yet. This is the last of my boxes I've got to do, or my bomb one as well. Then I'll get the prep video done for you that you wanted. I will tie some up on 018 with a 16, and that is just for those odd venues where you can fish a pellet Waggler for F1s. They are very limited, but I've still got room for them, so I want them in the box. That is the setup. That's how it's not complicated. Moving on to floats. Now this is the big bit. The float is so important. I hope you can see this. Like all my other fishing, I am absolutely anal with having the right kit and the floats, mate. It's all about the floats. So, got a few different sorts in here. We've got like the little DS Stealth Wagglers. These are awesome. 1.2, 2.5. They're like for mugging fish on the Waggler, casting at ones. Like if you're feeding and they're not coming into it and you're seeing some swimming around, still keep feeding your line, but this is just for casting at those fish. Make a tiny little plot, 8mm pellet on there. You'd be amazed how many you do catch on it. It's like dobbing them on the pole. A bit more confident on that. A wafter is good as well, just for that slow fall and a bit brighter. Moving on from that, like the foam, these are my go-tos for like any in good conditions. Starting at like, well, one swan. These are little, these are made by the TN floats, Tesnals. Every man in this dog uses these. They are brilliant. You have to make your own adapters. These are, I'm hoping you can see these. Right, this is a big one, so you'll see the ball weights on it. But make your own adapters, float tube, little split ring, 2 big balls and a crimp on some heavy fluorocarbon. And the big weight is first, and they fly like an arrow because you've got the big weight. They're all casting off the weight. They're the go-tos. Carry them in all sizes up to 6 grams, some thinner ones and some thicker ones. Moving on from them, like when you need that bit heavier, we're on the Matrix, the new Matrix ones. These are absolutely brilliant as well. Don't sink very well, and like it's just about finding the balance. Like that could be a really go-to, the 6 grammer, for a lot of summer fishing now. They go all the way up to 12 gram, the big one, which would be more for casting like to an island or something like that. From there, move on to the great big boys, these Guru ones. They're really long. I'm sure you've all seen these. Been out a while. They're again for casting to an island. They're also good on really windy days. When you just about get away with it, they will sit there. Obviously, when it's windy, the splash isn't going to affect so much. You will get days when the fish are sat up in the water and just trying to get any presentation. And then the final floats are like the bog standard. These are the Matrix, like the 8mm Wagglers, clear loaded Wagglers. There's other companies that all do these sort of things. Drennan do them. Everyone does them. Bit of a unique one. This one. It's when you've got a bit of a skim on the water, or you're hanging, fishing deeper. Like normally we cast, but sometimes just hanging it there. And these are perfect for that. They're just very stable. I had a day at Floatfish, I remember last year. There were some fish there and you couldn't catch them on a pellet waggler, and just casting one of these out, leaving it hanging and just pinging a few pellets around it, and eventually it would go. And I went from catching nothing to £100 the last hour with these. It's all about the tight line though. So you want lots of different floats, and you are going to change your depth not your depth, your size of float several times during the day. So that is the Waggler, the way all the setups will go into the fishing. This is actually the simple bit. It's getting the rigs right in the first place. Now you're going to be like a robot here. It is about getting in a pattern. And what you're going to be doing, you want a big rod rest to use. I haven't bought him, so you can just drop it on your knee and feed. I've got the big, like what the proper feeder anglers use, the big long one with the 2 little ends on it. Have it so your tip's just off the water, straight in front of you. So you're casting out, You want that line tight to your float. When you cast out, that line needs to be tight. If you get a bow in it, you need to step up the float. This is what I'm trying to say to you, because you'll find, especially, might be all day, but it might be if you're in a 5-hour match, definitely the first 3 hours are generally going to be like this. You're going to cast out, feed some 8 mils, like 8 mils, make some noise on your float. Rear, just give it a quick turn, just to sink your float. And what it's going to make you do is lift your hook bait back up to the top, then feed again, leave it 5-10 seconds, then reel it in, and then start again. And you want to be casting every 20 seconds, at the most. And what you're going to find is these islands coming in and they're not really feeding like these big carp. They just cruise around in the open water. We've all seen them. We know what it's like. So you just cast it, and why you need that tight line is most of your bites are going to be as that float lands. It's going to be like feeding. Your rod's going to go, and if you haven't got that tight line, you're going to miss all. You'll see the float go under, and you won't hook it. You want them to be hooking themselves on the rod, so that line needs to be tight. Going back the other way from that, if say you were on a 4-gram waggler, and you had to change up to a 6 because the line weren't tight, if that wind drops, drop back down to a 4, and if that still feels a bit heavy and you can get away with a 3 or a 2, then change to that. It's the lightest one, because the bigger the float, the more they're going to spook when that lands. So it's all about the balance. You might have to change your float 50 times during the day. Have all the sizes with you, and it's about the balance of keeping the line tight with the lightest float. But as the wind changes and stuff, you are going to be changing the belt. You want the lightest one not to spook them, but you need the tight line, otherwise you'll miss loads of bites. You want them pulling the rod in, tight line to it, and that is basically it. You're just repeating the process. You might have 100 casts and not have a bite, and then you catch 2 or 3 and like one after the other, and they're big. It's a great thing on hot days. You are just going through the motions, but you're building the peg up all the time. What can work is stopping feeding and just casting for a few casts, not just trying to trick one, and saying feeding and then casting into it. Just changing it around a little bit, but you are just going to be going through the motion. And it's, like I say, it's cast, feed, twitch it, feed again. When that second feed is getting you ready for the next cast, then cast it out again. It's just about getting into a rhythm. And you will find they just hook themselves. Now, as they get more confident and they start feeding that in the day, that does change. They're not going to hook themselves. You'll see your float go under, and they're not bolting off even on a tight line. They're just sat there in the feed eating all the pellets. And this is when you need to start. Then it's often better to feed and cast into it, so you can then have your hand on the rod ready to strike. But we're casting very, very regular. And that is pretty much it. It is just about getting in a routine. It's a simple method. It's very busy. It's not for lazy anglers. If you're sitting there, the people that have the most, because they're coming on the splash most of the time, the people that cast the most catch the most. I'm not saying just cast out instantly, really. Cast out. You've still got to get the feed in and have it in the feed, but it's just about being constant. You might have 500, 600 casts in a match. Obviously the wind, there are days when you just can't do it, and it's so frustrating because you know they're there. But I'd always have it set up. Even if I was fishing a bomb, you might just get 20 minutes where the wind drops. As I said on the last video, float fish never caught on it all day in a match on the bomb line, and the last 20 minutes I've had 6 big carp on it. There'd just be a time in the day when they're there. And that is pretty much it. Always I just fish a band, just fish an 8mm pellet. I just use a catless pellet. I've always got them in my bait bag. Even on fishery pellet places, it's like, if you're allowed, most places you are allowed to put your own hook pellet on, so I just use them. It's just what I'm confident in. A waft can work well, just a standout bait every now and again. Just be mindful that they do sink really slowly, which it does work to advantage when the fish is set really high. I say hanging it there does sometimes work, more for F1s, but you'll find it because you need your hand on the rod. because the F1 bites, we all know how hard F1s are to hook at times. I think that pretty much covers it. Like I say, it is simple, it's about the float. So I'll do a separate video on how to make the little links. They are definitely worth doing. Carry lots of different sorts of wagglers. Work hard, eh? Make sure you've got several catapults as well, because you're going to be doing it generally on a nice hot day and you're feeding regularly. You're abusing the catapult because you're pushing it 25-30 metres on a good day. Make sure you've got 3 or 4 catapults, because you will have elastics go on them. So ideally have a spare rod set up if you can, just in case the line does go, because you're putting a lot of wear and tear winding back and striking and stuff. But the fine line, your float's going to sit there so much better. So I think that is it. I will instantly stop this and do a bomb video, because it does tie in with it. Where you've built your peg up all day, the bomb underneath it can work, can be mega the last couple of hours. So I'll do that. I'll do it as a separate video because it is a different method. So I will be right back with that in a second. Thanks for watching.